Happy Black History Month, first and foremost. It's every day, huh? 365 days a year. Um, how we start our community events is that we call up our elders. If you consider yourself an elder of our community, can you please stand? Thank you. You can sit. You can sit. No, not you. I know how old you are, so stand up. Tell Auntie to stand up. Before we get started, are you okay? Uh-oh. Fumble. My apologies. Let's get back to it. Ma'am, sis, before we get started, do we have your permission to start this gathering? Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you guys for being here. I am going to bring up my leadership to do our opening and our welcome. Thanks. I'm sorry, Dr. Kimberly McCrae.
Don't worry about it. I'll just put this in there. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Seattle Central College. It is my absolute pleasure to have you all here. I'm Dr. Kimberly McCrae. I'm the Dean of Student Success, and the Emoja program is under my portfolio in leadership. So, is everyone seated? Because we're going to do a veneration, right? And I need for everyone to be centered. Peace, beloved community. Before we move, before we listen, before we remember, let us do what our ancestors taught us. Let us call the lineages forward. We call the drummers who kept time when the world tried to rush us. We call the griots who braided truth into melody. We call the dancers who prayed with their bodies. We call the aunties humming lullabies made of survival. We call the grandfathers whose footsteps were the rhythm long before the city learned the beat. We call the ones who held the stories, the ones who were the stories, and standing in their shadows and their light, we lift their words. We lift the words of James Baldwin, who told us, the place in which I'll fit will not exist until I make it. Tonight, we honor a people who made that place, beat by beat, note by note, breath by breath. Roots, rain, and rhythm. It's not just an exhibit. It's a return. A remembering of a decade when Black Seattle turned rain into resonance, turned struggle into soundtrack, turned everyday living into a kind of liberation practice. Between 1985 and 1995, our people carved out a sound that refused to disappear. In basements, thick with dreams, in churches, humming possibly, in tiny clubs that held big spirit, in living rooms that doubled as creative laboratories, we created culture long before the world had language for what we were doing. This was the music that stitched our wounds. This was the music that filled our joy. This was the music that whispered, you will not be erased. And so tonight, we honor the weirdos, the visionaries, the outcasts, the geniuses, the DJs who stretched nighttime into eternity, the poets who cracked open silence and poured truth inside, the singers who placed healing in the air for anyone who needed it, the dancers who declared freedom with every step, and the storytellers who guarded our memory while the city kept trying to forget us. As Toni Morrison reminded us, you are your best thing. And tonight, that best thing surrounds us in image, in sound, in memory, and breath. This exhibit is for the elders who built the blueprint, for the artists who kept creating with no spotlight, and for the young ones who deserve to know that Black Seattle has always been brilliant. As you walk through this gallery, may you feel the presence of those who came before you. May you hear their laughter in the baseline. May you feel their courage in every photograph, and may you sense their joy rising up from the floorboards. Because culture is not an artifact, it is a living thing. And tonight, it breathes through us all. Welcome to Roots, Rain, and Rhythm. Ashe.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, peace and welcome again. My name is Sherelle. I'm going to try to read this without getting emotional. I serve as a curator of Roots, Rain, and Rhythm, and I have the honor of leading the Emoja program here at Seattle Central. Tonight is about memory. Roots, Rain, and Rhythm is about Seattle remembering itself. It's about this institution remembering you. I wanted to point at Bill when I said that. Where's he at? Why are you back there? This is about this institution remembering you. As many of us build culture right here in this space, in this atrium. If you went here in the 90s, we used to build in this space. This was our building space. And so a lot of ciphers went on in this room. Okay, many of you build culture when the ground beneath us was shifting, when displacement was real, when survival required sound. The music held us, the parties held us, the magazines held us, the DJs held us, the stories held us. Our culture was not decoration, it was infrastructure, it was resistance, it was love. We honor the architects, we honor the risk takers, we honor the storytellers, we honor those who built community when there was no guarantees. Thank you to my leadership, Dr. Dean, my dean, thank you. Thank you to my staff. Thank you to the Rosetta Gallery and its staff, to As Many Weirdos, thank you. To all of our campus partners, thank you for trusting in my vision. Thank you to all the artists, the storytellers, and the cultural bearers. Thank you to each person in this room that understands that memory is sacred. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to hand this over to the real curator of Roots, Rain, and Rhythm, Rachel Crick.
Rachel Crick, and I am the founder of the As Many Weirdos as Possible project, a project that focuses on people who are making and supporting music in the Pacific Northwest between 1985 and 1995. This project takes portraits of people in places that have a special meaning to them, specifically tied to that time in music in Seattle. And then each person who is photographed gives us a handwritten memory from that time period. Tonight in the gallery behind us, there are 37 portraits and handwritten narratives. And we have taken over 300 of these. So this is a very small selection, but it's a very important selection. And when I was here on Monday for dress rehearsal, I asked everyone here who's telling a story tonight, whose portraits are all featured and stories are in the gallery, who went to Seattle Central? They all raised their hands. So this is something that's very important. I'm super proud and honored to have been asked to do this with Seattle Central, so thank you. About 1992, an album came out by the band Pearl Jam. And my friend Rosetta made this huge Pearl Jam stencil of the Stick Man. And she and I ran around Seattle spray painting it everywhere. And then a couple of nights she couldn't do it. So I asked my friend Scott if he would do it with me. And we went everywhere, all through the night, running around like crazy, spray painting this thing everywhere. And it was so much fun. Scott is one of the people that works on the As Many Weirdos as Possible project with us. He has worked in Seattle music in so many places, at Orpheum Records, at the Rebar, at KCMU, for the Rocket magazine, for the Flavor. And he's our host tonight. And I'm so excited to welcome him to the stage and thank him for supporting this evening. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. Give me a second to get some notes together. Got a rough job hosting this. My story will be okay, but the rest, as it goes, it just gets better. Trust me, it will blow you away, some of these stories. I want to thank Rachel and as many weirdos as possible. Make that front and center. Come on, we deserve it, right? We deserve it. I want to thank, first, of course, Seattle Central College. I got a chance to go here, as they said, and get my prereqs for my master's together and found another community. And I think about what Black history really is about is our communities and how we keep building and how we keep fighting for that history and putting it out there. And I'm beyond proud to be a part of this. When Rachel asked me to be a part of it, I was super excited. And then looking at the other artists and people on this list, it just blows me away. When you hear their stories, I think you'll be blown away too. So I will get started with mine first, and we'll go from there. But like I said, after me, it gets better. It gets better. One more time. So in late 1990, I got a job at Orpheum Records here in Seattle, right there on Broadway at the North End down there. And it was back when Broadway was still affordable, diverse, weird, and fully alive. You'd see the Tuba Man, Sonic, Seahawk players, go Hawks, the mayor, Norm Rice, remember him? Rock stars, drag queens, rap moguls, college students, all walking the same sidewalks. If you didn't fit in here in Seattle, you fit in on Broadway. You'd find it here. So Orpheum was integral to the music scene. Almost all record stores are integral to the music scene. There wasn't no internet, remember that? 1990, 1991, 92. No apps, no faceless interactions. Everything you learned from music, about music, came from flipping through the actual vinyl, the CDs, the cassettes. You were touching it. You'd be in the store listening to whatever the store people put on the speakers, and that was educating you. And, of course, you're going up to the counter talking to the people there. It was the culture. Right? All the record stores were in it. Orpheum had this big loft at the top, and it made the store feel open, but it also made it feel connected. And all the different genres are all right there for everybody to browse, all connected, all just like the community, all crossing all different styles and genres right there. So I'd been there for a couple years, and one night, after being there a couple years, me and a coworker, Sean, were closing this store. And back then, again, it was the 90s. You actually counting money, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, checks. Remember checks? And, you know, we were sorting all that. We'd been doing it for years. We were probably a little too comfortable, more comfortable than we should have been at that moment, because in strides Courtney Love. Full of confidence and Courtney Love, right? No apologies. And it took up a quiet night for me. I can only speak of me. I don't think there was any other customers in the store, so it was just me and Sean. And, of course, made me real aware, what are we playing on the stereo right now? Like, you know, it wasn't like I wasn't star-crossed. It wasn't like, oh, my God, here comes a rock star. It was more like we'd seen all the rock stars. They came through the record store. It was more like, now? Really? You're going to come to the store now when we're trying to close? Because you knew something was up. So if she's coming in, somebody else should be coming in too, right? So actually, after her walks in a young lady who we later found out was Kurt's sister. And then a few seconds later, Kurt comes tripping in right after that. And they divided us right away. Kurt goes, and his sister go with Sean. She grabs me and says, show me around the store. So, all right, let's go. And they hit every place, everywhere in the store. They were everywhere. I mean, tapes, CDs, rap, you name it, trip hop, everything. They were into everything. And they're just collecting stuff. And they get to the counter and they start talking like squirrels amongst themselves. I don't know what they're talking about, but they're dividing up the music at the same time. And it ends up being in two different piles, one slightly larger and a smaller one. And Sean and I are standing there. Courtney points to the big pile and says, this pile, we're paying for. This other pile right here, we're taking, we're leaving with. And I've been watching the whole time. I didn't know what they were doing. I don't know what they were dividing. But my first instinct was, I love the store. I love Bruce, the owner. He was a great guy. You ain't taking nothing from here. I'll fight you before you get out of here with that. I'll beat all three of you up. Two, I can do that black calculus right then and there. Stuff gets stolen, they're going to blame the only black employee who was working that night. And that was me. So, no, y'all ain't walking out with nothing. That's all going on in my head. I haven't said anything out loud. Sean, I'm sure you've seen me panic, pulls me off to the side. He quickly makes a decision. We got to call Bruce, the owner. So he goes in the back real quick. I can see him making the call. He's gesturing, pointing, but I can't hear. They're still doing their little giddy thing up front. And Sean finally comes out. It felt like it was a half hour, but it was only about 5 minutes. It felt like forever. Comes out. He tells me quietly, Bruce said to let him take the Nirvana bootlegs and CD, that pile that they said they were taking for free. It was all Nirvana bootlegs. Every piece of it was worth $35, $40 a piece. And they probably had 10 to 15 pieces of it. So we're talking $300, $400, $500 worth of stuff. They're going to walk out. This is 1990. Remember, $500. Y'all wouldn't let $500 walk out now. I had problems with it. But Bruce said to let them take it. So they got all happy. We bagged it all up. I'm still thinking, I can't just let them walk out here. Remember, it was before cell phones. We couldn't just take a picture of the moment. So I'm like, you're going to sign a receipt for me. And they're like, a receipt. And, of course, we had dot matrix printers. Our paper was 8.5 by 11, pre-printed blue Orpheum records on the top, but you're going to sign one of these. Kurt insists on signing it first. I'm going to sign it first. He signs it. Courtney does her thing, takes a little longer, signs it. They take their bags and skip out. Me and Sean didn't even look at the sheet right away because we're still kind of stunned. How are we going to end the night like this? This is crazy. I look down at the sheet. Kurt writes, macaroni and cheese for all. Kurt Cobain with 2 Ks, which he didn't spell his name that way. And she writes, I need for you to not make money off of my husband so I can feed my kids. Mrs. Cobain. And she never signs nothing, Mrs. Cobain. So we knew she was serious. Somehow, maybe a copy got made at Kinko's that night. I'm not sure who got that original. Maybe Bruce, maybe me. The copy ain't as worth as much as the story. I think the story's worth more. Thank you. Thanks for sitting through that. All right. Shuffle through my notes, make sure I get the next artist correctly. I believe it's Topspin. Did I get it right? Sorry, because I want to get this intro right. These are Tribal Productions. We talk about some of the history that's going on around here, and these guys are a little younger than me. I'll admit that. See my Ghetto Children shirt. Vitamin D's right here. Williams right here. I remember when these groups came out. For me, being a little younger, it's hard to admit that you're being influenced and motivated and inspired by cats that are younger than you, right? Coming out of high school. And I remember just finding out that the rap scene around here was blowing up, and these guys were a part of it. And I was a fan right off the bat. So with no more delay, let me get this right. All right, DJ Topspin, a.k.a. Really? Blindiana? Blindiana Jones has been producer and a DJ in Seattle's hip-hop scene since 1992. He co-founded Tribal Productions and worked as the marketing manager. He was also one half of the duo Sensimilia, another band that you would just love, with H-Bomb. All right, Sensimilia, part of the tribal music family, appeared on important Seattle compilations like, and I got this one too, Untranslated Prescriptions, that came out in 95. Do the Math came out in 96. Have you heard that? We know who starts that first rap. We'll wait till we get to that one. 14 Fathoms Deep in 97. And Classic Elements, 98. And in 2000, they released the single Destiny. Back with Haters. Y'all know about Haters. All right, Topspin still makes music and DJs throughout Seattle. He's also a father, enjoys tennis, and remains an important part of Tribal Productions' legacy in the city of Seattle. Thank you. Topspin, come on up.
Digital Underground with the early interpolation flavor. How you guys doing? Yeah. The year was 1990, and I was a sophomore at Seattle Prep. Raised in a Seventh-day Adventist home, my musical preferences were a mixture of everything from Andre Crouch to Phil Collins to Take Six to Belle Biv DeVoe to Big Daddy Kane. But hip-hop had started to take hold a few years earlier. I was accumulating cassette singles, 12-inch singles, 45s, whatever I could get my hands on. And although I'd go on to be one of the first DJs to sell mixtapes in Tower Records, I wasn't a DJ quite yet. I was a fan. I was a dancer. Breaking movies, Kid and Play, Heavy D, MC Hammer fueled that fire. But hometown pride was bubbling as Buttermilk Biscuits, Square Dance Rap, and most notably, Posse on Broadway from Sir Mix-a-Lot Swass was bubbling on the local radio scene since about '88. Seattle had a voice. My best friend Adam Berganza, his older brother, was an audiophile, really into hi-fi audio. He had the Crutchfield catalogs, introducing us to cassette decks, metal tapes, better than those plastic ones, CD players, and we would make, different speaker systems. We would spend hours making our custom tapes, whether it be dubbing a full album or making a tape full of hits from various CDs he acquired. And that's how I first heard Digital Underground's Sex Packets LP. And, hearing who remembers Freaks of the Industry, like hearing that as a teenager, blew my mind kind of in a similar way NWA's skits did. They were really vivid and you could kind of see all this imagery. You on TV Raps was a after-school tradition, a daily operation. Hip-hop was beautifully varied and creative. And when I caught the Do What You Like video, it looked like the livest house party you could ever attend, and that sparked something. Both cassette singles and 12 inches, often had alternate mixes. You couldn't get anywhere else, definitely not on the album. And Do What You Like was no exception. So one Sunday afternoon, I randomly took myself down to Tower Records on 5th and Mercer via Joe Metro. At the time, in my mind, there were many record stores. I don't think I'd been introduced to Orpheum yet, but Tower Records was like the store. Music being blasted from different sections, Tuesday midnight releases, staff who actually knew what you were looking for if you called and were looking for something. And if you walked out with that big, bright yellow Tower Records bag, it meant that you secured something. I made my way to the vinyl wall on the north wall, this little section. So I thumbed through the D's and found Digital Underground. The cover was funkadelic flavored, cartoonish, and humorously sexually charged. Digital Underground sonic aesthetic, as well as the artwork, borrowed heavily from the P-Funk era, but they kind of repurposed it as a rap group. Specifically, Shock G's quirky alter ego, Humpty Hump, was a direct nod to Sir Nose of the Funkadelic universe. And sonically, the Humpty Dance, which came out before Do What You Like, but as well as Do What You Like, the Humpty Dance's growling bass line, and even the backwards kick drum from Do What You Like, were direct nods to their funky forefathers. And this unlocked a curiosity, on a number of levels, but really just kind of trying to pick up the pieces and figure out, what they're into and their influences. Now, as you see, Do What You Like and Packet Man includes remixes. That building was music to my ears before the music ever hit my ears. So I made my beeline to the cash register, plopped down my 444 plus tax. Everything ended in 44 at Tower, 944 for albums, all that. And exited the store, excited to get home to give, these new mixes I hadn't heard a run. A number 3 bus heading back to the CD was approaching, and to catch it, I decided to jaywalk. I saw a car approaching and figured I could beat it. What I didn't see was the Peugeot tucked right behind it. That realization and the impact happened almost simultaneously. In the words of Prince, is all I heard. The signature yellow bag flailing back and forth in my hand midair. It was like a brief dream until the rude awakening of, me landing about 15 feet back in the middle of the intersection. Shins screaming, pride wounded. The driver leapt out, shaking, asking if I was all right. And in that moment, I felt a unique blend of pain, shock, embarrassment, and relief I didn't die while nursing myself in the middle of 5th and Mercer. I dusted myself off, checked the sanctity of my record, because the important things. Assured her I was okay, crossed the street legally this time, and caught the very same Metro bus I was originally trying to catch, because it was a spectacle. They kind of were waiting around to see if I was all right. Today, you can pluck your musical heart's desires out of the cloud instantly. But there was a time where the artwork surrounding, both physical and just the flavor surrounding records, made physical records keepsakes and one's collection pretty revered. I went through real pain in analog for my digital underground fix, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Ready to sacrifice bodily harm. I'm loving it. Gosh. Thank you. Please give Top Spin one more hand. All right, we got another artist up next, William Ryder, Be Self. I'll give you a little background on Mr. Ryder here. I wish I could just do this off the top of my head. AKA, like I said, William Ryder, AKA Be Self. Hold on, let me get this right. Self-Wonder. So it's Self-Wonder. 1, the number, D-E-R. Self-Wonder. Half of one legendary Ghetto Children band, okay? And a DJ and a proud member and representative of Tribal Productions crew. Come on up, William Ryder.
Hello. Topspin had a show and tell, so, not to be outdone. All right? This has nothing to do with my story. Other than the fact that I'm from the world famous Ghetto Children, Tribal Productions crew, representing. My story, however, starts with a gentleman by the name of Mike Clark, who is a true linchpin in Seattle hip-hop history. Okay. Mike has Mike has worked in everything from party promotions to being a writer at the Flavor magazine, to being a DJ on KCMU Rap Attack, and a street promoter alongside the late, great Nasty Ness Rodriguez. He is one of the most humblest and unassuming people, but one of the most important people in hip-hop history in Seattle, okay? So my story starts with him. Mike was also, he worked at a record store, and that's where I met him. He worked at Beverly's Records and Tapes on 23rd and Jackson. Okay, that was at the Promenade. That's been transformed, as we know. But that's where I met Mike, and we'd go in there, and he'd tell us about new music. We'd start talking about music. We talk about the industry. We talk about life. We started putting our music on consignment there. He took a liking to our music. Over time, he became my mentor, and then he became our manager. In 1994, he helped us secure a demo deal for Geffen Records at Geffen Records, and so my heart is I have nothing but love for the fella, and you know, he's been very instrumental. So that's where my story starts. Fast forward, street promoter Mike calls me one day, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go meet the Fugees?" Oh, shit, okay, you know, I'm not doing nothing. It's important to remember. And again, okay, it's important to remember, this is 1994, okay? So in 1994, the Fugees were releasing their first album, Blended on Reality. So they were not stars as of yet. This is not the Fugees of The Score. That would be released 2 years later, and then that would eventually go on to become Diamond, a Diamond-selling record. Right now, they were just on their first run out, right? So they were no names. But Lauryn Hill had been in Sister Act 2, so she had some note. She had some acclaim, right? So I'm like, sure, okay, we'll go meet the Fugees. So we go out to Northgate Mall, and there's a car show taking place in the parking lot. And that's where they have their tour bus out there, and they're just out kind of milling about. When I meet them, I have to be honest with you, okay? Wyclef and Pras were what's the word I guess? How could I be polite? They were a word that rhymes with past goals. Okay? Yeah, past goals. This is what I would say. And so I was not impressed by those two individuals. But Lauryn, however, from the gate, she was very personable. She was very down to earth. She was very just into it. She was asking questions. She was glad to be in Seattle. The other two were acting like they were doing something that was beneath them, right? Being on a promotion tour. Now, I have never been on a promotional tour, but I have been up and down the coast promoting our own music from Los Angeles, San Francisco, Oakland, up the coast to Vancouver. So in each place, what we would do is you get out and you meet the people. You try to endear yourself to the local scene, and you try to let people know that I got music coming out. This is who I am. This is what I represent. Right. So I expected at least that from somebody on a professional label release. Out doing that. They gave us none of that. They were, and so that was just kind of off-putting to begin with. And I would say that it was borderline hostile, but, I don't know. My memory might be playing with me. It might not have been that serious. But again, their saving grace was Lauryn Hill, who was here for all of it. So, we talked and we chatted and, we kind of got to know each other briefly. I mean, we had spent the whole day together. So it was, we did a lot of different places. But the two things that I remember, when it was time to go get lunch, we suggested that we go back to the CD and go to Ezel's, right? The world famous Ezel's. Oprah had been there and all of that. And one of the fellas was like, why do I want to go there? Like that. I felt some kind of way, you know what I'm saying? I took umbrage with his attitude, you know what I'm saying? For one thing, my hood's the shit, excuse the language, you know what I'm saying? But see, these people were only going to be in town for a day, and you know what I'm saying? And I'm tagging along with my mentor, so I'm not gonna go there with you. But we didn't allow that to dissuade us. We look, we're showing y'all around, y'all ain't showing us around, right? So that's kind of how we did that. So we make the trip to the CD and we go to Ezel's, right? They park this long tour bus in Ezel's parking lot, and they get their food, and everybody's enjoying their food, and they kind of lighten up a little bit, but whatever. But I took this opportunity at this point in time to take Lauren across the street to my alma mater, Garfield, right? I went to Garfield, and then I moved over to here to Middle College, by the way, just a side note. So that's how I got acquainted with Seattle Central firsthand, and so, but that's a different thing. So I took her over to my alma mater, and at Garfield you have Miller Community Center in the gym, and so there were people out and about who were just doing community center stuff, and so those people came out and they said, "Oh wow, it's Lauren Hill," or whatever. So they came and they met her, and she engaged with them, interacted with these people, and there must have been about, I want to say about 10 or 15. I'm being conservative, but it was a sunny day. It might have been as high as 30. I don't know, a long time ago. Nonetheless, point is, Lauren engaged with the people. They started rapping. She started rapping with people. She started battling people, also being nice because she was smashing cats. It was just like one of those kind of like magical situations, and so it made me feel good about coming out and having to participate in the whole thing. And then Mike gets to walk away with a win for having got these people out in front of people who were being very difficult. It was whatever. Anyways, long story short, my takeaway from that whole instance was not so much just the meeting of celebrities and how people can be in real life. By the way, that's not getting out and meeting the people. That's probably why the album didn't do so hot. Just saying. Just the, I don't, theory on the case. Yeah, just saying. But first impressions matter, right? You know what I'm saying? And showing up matters. And, and that's my takeaway from that. And two people showed up really clearly. That was Mike Clark and Lauren Hill. Big ups to L Boogie. At that time, like I said, Pross and Wyclef, they were sidekicks to L Boogie, really, if we're just going to tell the truth about it. But again, the story unfolds. They obviously got their thing together and went and did big things. So that is what that is. But yeah, that's my story. Showing up and, knowing the assignment. Thanks for your time, y'all.
Be self. Even his name is a lesson. I'm just saying, dude he ain't messing around, right? Y'all be yourselves out there. All right, give him one more hand. Just said. I told you it was going to get better after me. All right, now it's really about to blow up. I'm sorry. I'm just a little too giddy. I got to calm down a little bit. Am I doing okay? All right. This is so cool. The stories, it's just killing it. All right. So our next, and far from least, our next one, let me get it straight because this is a big introduction. So I can go a couple ways. Let's get this Be Self off of here. Oh, I got to say it? Oh, we're bringing up Ebony right now? My fault. Somebody else going to come up here? Ebony, come on up. Oh, you okay. We got to pause in the stories. Got something important coming up.
Good evening. Let me get myself together. Whew. All right. This is such a gift to be able to hear these stories of Seattle hip hop history. And it's also a gift to be able to be here tonight. In the memory of rhythm, photographs, and living archive of Black hip hop in Seattle. And what an honor it is to stand before you and speak about my true and dear friend, Jasmine Scott. I met Jasmine around 2004 when I was 19 years old. We were assistant stage managers on Ma'afa, a Sankofa theater production, tracing the history of the transatlantic slave trade through music, poetry, dance, and drama. It was a big emotional, community-driven work. Elders, youth, artists, people who had never stepped on a stage before, all came together to carry a story that had to be told. And it was in that storytelling that Jasmine and I found each other. And from that moment on, we became sisters in the journey, fellow travelers, witnesses to one another's becoming, and partners in the long work of carrying the culture forward. For more than 20 years, our friendship has lived in and around art and music, at shows, in rehearsal halls, in galleries, in production meetings, in long talks after events about what it means to hold the culture with care. And for more than 20 years, I've known Jasmine as someone who shows up for community. But as I prepared for tonight, I realized something. I know the Jasmine that I met at 19. I know the producer, the curator, the institutional builder, the lover of hip hop, the maker of immaculate playlists. But who was Jasmine before I knew her? Where did her love for music come from? Where did her instinct to document, amplify, and protect the story come from? And when you ask those questions, you end up back in the Central District. You end up in a household where Black music was featured. It was purpose, profession, and legacy. Jasmine is the daughter of Vivian Phillips and Robert L. Scott, two extraordinary figures in the cultural life of this city. Her father, Robert, made history in the 1970s as Seattle's first African-American DJ on the top 40 station. He had been on air since he was 14 years old, already hosting jazz shows, already studying how radio could move people, inform them, connect them. Across a 3-decade career, he worked in programming, news, and sales, always finding ways to make sure Black voices and Black businesses had access to the microphone. Vivian Phillips is a broadcaster, storyteller, impresario, and cultural leader whose life's work had been about making Black brilliance visible. She understood media as an affirmation, and she used every platform she touched to elevate Black life, Black art, and Black thought. Together, they created a home where airwaves mattered, where representation mattered, and where telling the story right mattered. Vivian and Robert were architects of access. They were orators of their time. At KYAC and throughout the community, they were regarded as royalty. At a time when television had not yet reached every household, the radio was the gathering place. And for Black Seattle, that gathering place was KYAC. It was a station and the signal that people trusted. They were playing records and shaping how a city heard itself, and that is legacy work. So of course, their daughter grew up knowing that music is an archive, that hip hop is oral history, that music is how we remember and how we are remembered. By the time I met Jasmine, she already carried that knowledge in her bones. Before she was organizations, she was a young photographer. And if you were around the local hip hop scene in the 1990s, you saw Jasmine with a camera in her hand. At shows, at house parties, on sidewalks, in the middle of the street, capturing moments that might have felt small then, but today are priceless evidence of who we are. Her photographs gave artists proof, they gave crews history, and they gave community reflection. And one of those images became the cover of Silent Lamb's first album, Conrad. And as collectives like Tribal Productions were defining Northwest sound and pushing the music far beyond the city, Jasmine was on the scene, making sure the culture was visible. Because hip hop is not only built by the person on the mic, it's built by the DJ, the dancer, the promoter, the photographer, the radio host, and the friend who believes it matters. Peace, love, unity, and having a good time. That's what Jasmine helped manifest by being present. By paying attention and documenting, Jasmine became hip hop. And if you were outside in those days, you know something else. Jasmine was always in a circle of brilliant, beautiful, fly women at the center of the energy, with eyes sharp enough to read a room in a second and a smile bright enough to light up the whole spot. She moved through every space with ease because she belonged there. She didn't miss the party, and you knew it was the party because Jasmine was there. But what made her unforgettable wasn't her popularity. It was the generosity of her spirit. She welcomed folks in, she made space, and even then she was practicing the thing that she would later perfect, community. And that is why tonight makes so much sense, because the work of As Many Weirdos as Possible is about honoring culture from the inside, portraits through relationship, memory told by people who lived it. That instinct to notice, document, and love people enough to remember them accurately, that's Jasmine. She has always understood that people are history, and that is why she belongs here tonight. You saw that legacy in her work on 50 Next, Seattle Hip Hop Worldwide. You saw it in the Legacy of Seattle Hip Hop exhibit at Mohai. And you saw it at Langston, from her being a young person in the building to becoming the organization's first employee to guide programs and partnerships. Jasmine helped define what accountability looked like, what accountability to the Black community truly looks like. In 2020, when the doors closed, when gathering felt impossible, and when we needed each other more than ever, Jasmine did what she had always done. She made a way for us to hear ourselves. Through 206 The Break, she gathered DJs across generations. She centered local artists. She paired music with memory and lived experience. It was an archive, an oral history, and a reunion. It was love, and that's who Jasmine is. A listener, a bridge, and a cultural custodian. Someone who knows legacy is not something you inherit once. It is something you have to keep choosing to carry. And now, as the executive director of Art Noir, she continues that work, creating permanence and opportunity to Black artists so that they can thrive long into the future. Jasmine, your life has been a relay of devotion, from your parents' voices across the airwaves, to your lens, to your exhibitions, to the institutions that you lead. You have helped Black Seattle recognize its own greatness. You have protected our memory, you have extended our legacy, and you have made sure we get to tell it ourselves. My friend, it is an absolute honor to stand here tonight and thank you. And it is my deep joy to help honor you and to witness you receive this honor. Come and take your rightful place in living history.
I'm shook. Because nobody told. I asked Rachel a couple of weeks ago, what do you need me to do? What am I supposed to do on this night? And she was like, just, you don't have to do anything. And I'm like, girl, do I have to say anything? And she was like, no, just. Hi. Okay, so I didn't come prepared to say anything because I didn't think I didn't know it was going to be like this. And honestly, I didn't know why y'all chose me. I mean, I was like, I'm the baby of this decade that we're highlighting. I'm the little sister. I was around, but I didn't
recognize that my contributions were, as Ebony outlined, because I just do. I don't keep track, I guess. So I don't know what to say. I'm just honored. I'm honored to be here. I love doing what I do. I love my community. I love hip hop. I love music. I love the arts. Y'all know that know me. And so this is really special. From however many years ago it was that you reached out, Rachel, and invited me to even be a part of this project, to the involvement I've maintained with this project, to this exhibit, to right now, is just huge. And I thank you all. I don't know what to say. Thank you to my sister, because she's sneaky as hell. I didn't know this was going to happen, but thank you all so much for this. I really appreciate it. Oh, and I just got to shout out my brother Melvin. I'm wearing that Central District on my chest. It's. I love this picture. I love that sweater. Represent our neighborhood, our community. Melvin Freeman is the designer of that, and so I always got to shout him out too.
Oops, I'm gonna make a William Ryder mistake. We can go home now, because that was just amazing. I mean, we're done. I know there's 3 more stories, but how are we gonna top that? I'm sorry, people got to go after that. Thank you, Jasmine. If you've not been to Art Noir, right in the heart of the CD, right there on 23rd, it is a beautiful gallery. My kid has already got a chance to put up art in that gallery and sell it. So I'm already down with Jasmine, because put some money in my kid's pocket. Thank you very much. But if you get a chance, go to that gallery. It's beautiful. All right, we have our next 3 storytellers coming up. And like I said, no order here, but here comes a powerful one. Get ready. So let me get this introduction right. Goes by a couple, but THC is the first one. T is higher consciousness, is what THC stands for in this example. Now, if you don't know Tia, you're going to wish you had. Tia is a Seattle native, raised in the Central District, and the only woman in the legendary Tribal Productions collective. She's the first voice you hear in that iconic song. If you've heard it, Do the Math, setting that tone, for a movement. A singer, a poet, MC, chef, soon-to-be author, daughter of Gloria, mother of Tia. Oops, let me get that right. Tisaya. Mother of Tisaya. She's truly the queen of the tribe and just a dope-ass woman. Come on up, Tia. TAC.
Okay, I'm short, so I'm going to have to bring it down. And I'm going to have to go from B girl to B woman with these glasses on. B stands for blind. Okay. You know what? It was 1994, and I was 19, fresh out of Garfield the year before. I was doing Bellevue Community College and cosmetology school at the same time, still trying to figure out who I wanted to be in life. I hadn't found my full hip-hop voice yet. I was singing, writing poems, doing spoken word, and rapping to my friends on the low-low. But THC wasn't fully born yet. Do the Math wouldn't drop for about another 2 years. My close friend Orion, his mom was Roberta Penn. Yes, that Roberta Penn from 1250 K-Fox. The one everybody was convinced was a black woman because her voice had that smooth, sultry Southern drawl on air. So for those of you that don't know what 1250 K-Fox was, let me tell you. K-Fox, Seattle's hottest music, 1250 AM. Yes, AM. Okay? It was the radio station that played urban music back in the day. It was the station that all of us tuned into with our reused cassette tapes that we had stuffed the tissue in the top and had rewound with our pencils. You remember that? And we were waiting for songs to come on. My personal favorites were like Michael Jackson, Troop, Heavy D and the Boys, Keith Sweat, and Climax, Don't Slap Me Because I'm Not in the Mood. You remember that? So, and to really bring it full circle, our honoree, Robert L. Scott, our honoree Jasmine, her dad, Robert L. Scott, was on that radio station as well. Roberta was doing an interview for the PI newspaper, and she invited me along. She had brought me on interviews before, and I got to sit there and listen to her talk to like Etta James, Janet Jackson, Wynton Marsalis, just on the line, these legends, like nothing. And years later, she would slide me a backstage pass where I got to sit in a smoke session with Cypress Hill and Chris Novoselic from Nirvana. She would always encourage my writing and always encourage my creativity. Even when Orion and I drove across country to live in New York, she gave me a journal and she said, "Write what's in your heart, Miss T," because that's what she called me. She knew I was heavy into music and was even thinking about journalism. So when she invited me on this interview, I was beyond ecstatic. I can remember it was a sunny day and we had to drive around a few times because the traffic sucked. When we walked into Elliott Bay Bookstore, it was active, but it was low key as usual. He wasn't there yet, so we found a spot in the corner and we just chilled. Well, I didn't chill, but I played it off. When he walked in, most people didn't know who he was because it was white ass Elliott Bay Bookstore. But I was there and I was about to meet the guy who was famous for classics like Check the Technique and Dwick and Mass Appeal, just to name a few. Verses like, what? Hey, hey. The one, the only, gifted, unlimited, rhymes, universal. He totally had that East Coast swag. The sweatpants with the one leg up, the 10 boots on, the army fatigue jacket, and the fitted hat. His energy and his aura were big, but dude was hella short. And if I'm saying somebody's short, he was vertically challenged, okay? I honestly can't remember the questions that Roberta asked him that day, but I do remember that he was real chill and that he didn't act pretentious at all, and that he wasn't tripping that she brought along her son and his friend. In that moment, some things clicked for me. I had always been a hybrid. I was raised on gospel and R&B and jazz, meaning I wasn't just pure hip hop, which most of us aren't. The fact that he was collaborating with jazz artists showed me that it was okay for me to tap into those genres. Because hip hop was this expansive genre, limitless. It is a gumbo of all genres, yet unique. It is reminiscent of old, but brand new. It is how we can take samples out of old songs and turn them into their very own thing. He engaged with us and he made us feel welcome. And afterwards, we smoked some of that good Seattle, And later that evening, we even went to the Rock Candy and we listened to him because he was there collaborating with Donald Byrd because he was promoting his new album, Jazzmatazz. That was hip hop and jazz in dialogue before I even had the language for it. It was a dope experience and it left a lasting impression on me. So I'm grateful that I got to tell Roberta that I used that story in the Weirdos Project before she passed. So rest in peace to Roberta and rest in peace to one of the greatest MCs to ever do it, Guru. Thank you.
tell it again. That was that good. Could tell it again. Love that part is if she said he was short, you know. And I'd heard the story before, and that's a great story. One, I know Roberta, got a chance to work with her, and I know her friend Arai. So it's a lot of personal stuff going on here tonight. This is great. All right, our next speaker. Can I talk about hating him for a little while? He was just the coolest of cool on Broadway. I will talk about that, man, walking around. How many brothers walking around with cool-ass mohawks back in the day, right? I mean, this guy, Dan Monnier. All right, so let me give you a little bit about his background. I wish I could just do it off the top of my head because I love this guy that much and just about everything he's done. But Dan plays bass, guitar, drums, and he's best known for his work with Seattle's well-known band Action Buddy. Yep, look him up. The group started in the early 1990s and put out their first album, So Who the Mother? That was in 1991. Dan also writes songs as well, works as an audio engineer, and has organized the Dead End Block Party for over 20 years. Go see it right here in Columbia City. It's amazing. This annual event brings people together for a potluck, barbecue, beer garden, live music, usually about 8 or 9 acts. You know, Dave's looking at me. He knows. He's been there. It's good stuff. All right. He's a friend, carpenter, father of 2. Dan keeps building community through music and personal connections. Dan Monnier, come on up.
Guess I don't really need to say nothing, right? All right. Let's get through this. I've been waiting for this. I want to thank all the speakers, and I'm honored to be here as a part of this unit. I think this means a lot to your function, and I hope this continues to unravel the many different talents that we're not being able to see right now. Did that make sense? Yeah. Okay. All right, so my story starts in 1987, but I'm going to take it back just a little second. I got my son's texting me right now. He's like, I see you. Smile. So I got into music because I come from a musical family. My cousin's sitting over there. We just come from a musical family. When I moved up here from Los Angeles, I went to school in Auburn, and part of our escape was to come up here in Seattle and go to these nightclubs. So I used to go to this nightclub called Scoochie's, if anybody heard that. And so I was part of the wrecking crew or the Brat Pack, so I was a pretty popular guy right off the bat in there. And one night I was sitting on the speaker, air bassing to some, new wave pop song or whatever like that. Some guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I want you to join my band." And I'm like, "I don't even play an instrument." And he said, "That's okay, you got the look." So a couple of days later, I went over and hung out and watched them and realized that they were way too advanced for me to start into, but it started a bug. And then I got to see the different pockets of Seattle's music community, who was connected to who, and it was just a fun place to be. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. So fast tracked that to 1987. I just had joined the band Action Buddy. For some reason, they liked I walked in on another bass player playing, and I thought, I'm just going to turn around because I don't got this. But they liked my playing, and the rest is history. I just got off of a big high with doing that. And also, I was kind of a magnet because I worked at the Paramount Theater as an usher. And you know what that's like. All your friends are like, "Can you get me in? Can you get me in?" So I was that guy too. And pretty popular dude. So, and I also lived there on the 5th floor where the M is. And whenever I'd get locked out of my apartment, if my roommate wanted to have business with whoever, I'd have to walk out the hallway, open the window, crawl around to my window, which was a closet, and break in. And I always left it open because that happened often. So I started to really connect with a bunch of musicians in Seattle because everyone was there, and that was the hub. Most of us local musicians got to play there and work there and see all the regional acts that would come through and just be a part of a huge community that has grown into what it is now. My roommate at the time was working at the Vogue, and I was just about getting ready to turn 21, and she kept saying, "You got to come watch this band because you're a bass player and this bass player, you guys have the same energy. You got to come watch this band." I'm like, "Okay, who is it?" So I get down there and I'm watching this band, and the room starts to slowly fill up, and I'm kind of like being a wallflower, just like, I'm not one of those guys who's like, "Hey, oh my God, yeah." So eventually it started to get really good. I was really interested. I got closer and closer, and these guys were just pumping it out. And so I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and it was a friend of mine. We were like, "Yeah, yeah." And when I turned around, all I could see was just a cascade of water hit me right on the forehead, splashed all over my shirt and my jacket. And just anger just started to like go over my head because I just bought this polo jacket from Nordstrom's, and it was like my whole paycheck. And this dude's spitting on it, right? And so I was really mad, and you know how things go when you're mad like that. Time takes forever, and you think that, but it all happened in an instant. My roommate saw it happen. She runs over real fast, grabs me by the shoulder, pulls me outside, calms me down, and I didn't realize it was the band's last song. So I'm out there kind of just trying to chill out, lit a cigarette. She's talking to me. She says, "I'm going to go back inside." And the next thing you know, this guy, he ran out after it was their last song. He runs out. He's like profusely just, "Hey, man, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's part of my show. I do it every show." He was just really just like, I'm like, "Okay, you're cool, man. That's I'm glad you did that." It turns out, yeah, we talked for like 45 minutes. Obviously, we're both bass players, songwriters. We're both Capricorns, and when I meet a Capricorn, I immediately bond because we're there, right? So that went on. He became a friend of mine, and this guy, his name was Andrew Wood from Other Love Bone, and I realized that through that experience that, and looking back on how things have gone for a black band to be in Seattle, you don't want to lose your cool. You take it and you write with it and you just keep going. Ain't nobody gonna get in your path. Nobody gonna stop your stride. So that was my attitude. And looking back in hindsight, I'm glad that didn't happen because I think my band had the opportunity to open doors for a bunch of other bands, hip hop, jazz, R&B, you name it, to get into every club. Because at that time you could not get into. You guys know you couldn't get into clubs. You could throw your mixtapes or whatever out there, and 10 years later, who are you? So that's where we were, and so I'm honored to be a part of breaking those doors. And yeah, and that's just about my story. I'm just really honored to be here, and thank you guys very much for listening to my story.
So I was one of those guys who used to book his band all the time. I think I booked you with hip hop, rock, everything, and it would pack. And the music's fun. Look them up. Oh, did you take my notes? I didn't even, because we only got one more, and it's not even a last and least type thing. We're gonna get to Shelly Shell in a second. Now, let me get this introduction up. You see the name Chanel Marshall, otherwise known as Shelly Shell. Chanel grew up in Seattle and began battle rapping in the hallways of Franklin High School. Go Quakers. As a teenager, performing as Shelly Shell, she joined the Incredible Crew with Danny D-Rock, CMT, and DJ Nerdy. Oh, let me get that right. DJ Nerdy B. Wait, at 16, she became the first female MC to record a hip-hop record in Seattle. Incredible Crew's 1988 single, He's Incredible. I need my glasses. He's Incredible. became a local radio favorite, and secured her place in Seattle's hip-hop history. Chanel also managed Little Record Mart in Madison Valley. You remember that place, too. A store that helped new artists and brought people together, like all them record stores back then. Although Inda Cruz's record deal fell through, Chanel kept writing, turning her experiences into rhymes, poetry, and her books. Inda Cruz's early music has found new listeners with the new releases of the previously unreleased album, Beyond a Shadow of a Doubt. She recently published a new book, Through the Eye of Her, and continues to inspire others and comes back and forth here from Atlanta all the time to help out as many weirdos as possible. Please give it up for Shelly Shell.
It was 1990, and I just graduated from high school. I was working at a retirement home on 17th at the top of Madison Street. It was a summer gig. I hadn't planned to be there long. You know, I'm a creative. I love music. And back then, I was a hip-hop chick. Shout out to Nerdy B, then Credit Crew, Supreme LaRock, Fever One. And to be honest, all I wanted to do was work at a record store, all right? That summer, I met this guy. His name was JC. And when I met him, he said he also worked on Madison Street, but down in the valley at the Little Record Mart. So every day, I would run down the hill after I got off work from 17th, down Madison to 29th, to the corner, to the record store, to chop it up with JC. We would talk about music mostly and how I wanted to work at that record store. So one day, a young lady, her name was April, she worked at the store also. She was like, hey, Chanel, listen, I need to holler at you real quick. She was like, listen, I'm about to quit. I was like, word? She had just graduated from Garfield High School, and she was going off to college in Atlanta. I said, well, see, she knew I wanted to work at the record store. I was like, well, listen, who's going to take your spot? She was like, girl, I don't know. I said, okay, well, who do I need to talk to? She said, you need to talk to the owner. I said, well, who's the owner? She said, JC. I said, girl. Now, mind you, he told me he worked at the store. He didn't tell me he was the owner. Okay? And mind you, this was a brother back in 1990. Okay? Needless to say, I got the job. And I became the neighborhood tape dealer. And I was that chick that folks would come to buy new music, you know, to get their cuts. And I would see them coming. And I hear the boom, 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 boom. And I would match that boom, 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 boom. And by the time they got through the door, I had a pile of music waiting for them, trying to get them to spend all that money. Because, see, I got to know my customers, and they got to know me. Now, Little Record Mart, back in the day, in 1990, they only had one location at that time, which was down at the Valley. And shout out to all the youngsters who used to come and hang out with me. Melvin Freeman, the Fly Blind Guy, Max Slug, and others. We would sit down there, we would chop it up and whatnot. But Little Record Mart was a little mom and pop store. And we used to really give some of the other record stores in the Seattle area problems. We specialized in gospel, jazz, R&B, hip-hop, oldies, but we were known for breaking new artists, especially underground artists from the Bay Area and the like. Ascari X, MC Pooh, Mac Dre, Spice One. And I would communicate regularly on a regular basis with the record producers, distributors, and folks, you know, at the record labels. Well, one day I get a call from a distributor. His name was Hank Wiley. He worked for Uni Distribution at the time. He had introduced me to Shantae Moore, Jodeci, Mary J. Blige. Before their albums came out, he gave me cassette tapes. It would ask me to listen to them and then tell them how many units did I think they could sell in the Seattle area. All right. He learned to trust me. But this time he wasn't calling me to hit me to some new music. He was asking me if I wanted to go to Jack the Rapper, which was one of the biggest music conventions of that time. Remember, the early 90s, all right? So I was like, yeah, I want to go to Jack the Rapper. But where is it? He said, Atlanta. I said, how am I going to get to Atlanta? That's a 5-hour plane ride. I was used to going back to California, but that was just a hop, skip, and a jump. So he was like, listen, you worried about the wrong thing. I just need you to clear your schedule and we'll work everything else out. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane, touchdown in Atlanta. My first time in the A. And it was hot as all get out. Boy, I was burning up. I get outside, I'm sweating, still cute. But I'm sweating, waiting for my cousin to pick me up. He picks me up, I get to the hotel where the convention's being held, get down to the lobby, and when I tell you it was like a music video, real talk. I see Q-Tip. He's standing on a crate with his boom box, jamming to the music, rapping, doing his thing. I see E40 and the clique of them. I'm like, what's up? They're like, what's up? Then I see Snoop Dogg. He walks past me with a trail of ladies following behind him. And I swear, the farthest he got, the longer the line got. And I say he was looking like a pimp, So he looks at me. I look at him. I roll my eyes. He turns his lip up and keeps on strolling. Then I hear somebody call my name, Chanel. I'm like, what's up? It was Carlton for Rap-A-Lot Records. And he was asking me if I wanted the new Scarface tape. He had cases. Now, mind you, when I went to these conventions, I went so that I could see who was, who the new artists were, who was hitting, who I could bring back to the town to introduce everybody to, in the city. And I wanted to get a jump on all the record stores, have something unique. So he was like, listen, you want some of these tapes to take back to, Seattle, take back to the town, to the little record mart? I was like, yeah. All right, so I grabbed these tapes. I back up and I bump into this guy. I'm like, ooh, my bad. So I try to scurry off, because I'm ready to go on about my business, meet somebody else. And he's like, nah, Chanel, I need you to come back here. Come here. So he's talking to the guy next to him that I just bumped into, and he's telling them all about the Little Record Mart. Now, again, Little Record Mart was a mom and pop store, but in addition to a mom and pop store, it was owned by a black man. And this brother prided himself on hiring other young blacks in the community. Shout out to Furl, Guy, Mike Torrey, Page One, and others, to say the least. And by that time, there were several locations. So we had 3 in Seattle, had the Valley, 1 in King Center, 1 in Columbia City, had a couple in Tacoma, 12th and K Street, and also by the Army base, all right? So he's explaining all this to him, and it's like, listen, I need to get a picture of you two so that I can capture this moment. He's sitting there smoking on whatever he's smoking on. He puts it to the back. We chop it up for a minute while Carlton gets out his Polaroid, ready to take the picture, pulls me in. He's like, you ready to take this picture? I'm like, yeah. He had on his Carl Kanai sweatshirt. I had my little finger waves in my head, again, thinking I'm cute. So he takes the picture, fanning the Polaroid. Back then, you had to wait for it to dry. All right? Fast forward, I get back to Seattle, to the record store, talking to my sister about the event, the convention. Well, that Polaroid that I had, I ended up throwing it in the garbage. Didn't mean to, but I threw it in the garbage nonetheless. A few years later, I'm watching the news, and the same guy that I had bumped into and taken a picture with, I saw that he had passed away. So in addition to being sad, I'm like, dang, I wish I still had that picture, right? So I called my sister. I'm like, Tay, girl, did you see the news? She's like, yeah, I saw the news. I said, all right. I said, dang, I wish I still had that picture. And she started laughing. I was like, what's so funny? You know, because again, it's supposed to be a somber moment. We've lost an icon. She said, I have the picture. I said, what you mean? I said, girl, you lying. She like, no, I'm not lying. She said, when you threw it in the garbage, I went behind you, picked it up from the trash, put it in my back pocket, and put it in the front of my binder. She went to Rayton High School at the time. Put it in front of my binder and used it as a conversation piece. All right? And when people would see the picture, they'd be like, dang, that's a picture of Tupac. Your sister knows Tupac? So I was like, listen, can I get that picture back? She was like, nah, but you can have a copy.
This is live stream. So I thank you guys all for being here. We did have the gallery manager, but I think she's still in class. So I will just say thank you. The artists are here, so there will be time for you guys to see them and talk to them. Please enjoy the gallery space, and good night.